1 Kings 11. King Solomon fell in love with many foreign women, besides Pharaoh's daughter, including Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonites, and Hittites. Okay, time out, caution. You're not supposed to be marrying the foreigners. Now, the Moabites, yes, there's some prohibitions against them, which is separate from, but Moabites, Ammonites, and Edomites are all relatives that are descended from Abraham. So they're all cousins and family line. So I could see the bringing the kingdom of Abraham together in some unity different than going to the Sidonites and the Hittites. Okay, those are the Canaanites that you are taking the land from, and you were not to intermarry with them because they worshipped foreign gods, and you were going to be led astray to those foreign gods, so you're not to marry them. I don't remember Sidonites being mentioned in that group, but the Hittites were. So we could say of all of these groups, especially he should have known not to marry Hittites. We just had in the previous one, he was sending horses and chariots to the Hittites, no doubt partially due to or connected with something to do with marriage and his wives from there. They came from nations about which the Lord had warned Israel. You must not establish friendly relations with them. If if you do, they will surely shift your allegiance to their gods. But Solomon was irresistibly attracted to them. Like, dude, you have a wife from Pharaoh. Why do you need all of these other wives? He is irresistibly attracted to them. So this is just go to show that no matter how wise somebody is in one area of life and what you are doing, you still have areas at which you are fatally flawed in some way. I'll say it that way. So you like the if, and there's an emote for that. He had 700 wives and 300 concubines. Wives or princesses, concubines were slave women in ancient Near East society who were the legal property of their master, but also could have legitimate sexual relations with their master. A concubine status was more elevated than a mere servant, but she was not free and did not have legitimate rights of a free wife. The children of a concubine could, in some instances, become equal heirs with the children of a free wife. The usage in the present passage suggests that after a period of the judges, concubines may have become more of a royal prerogative. Okay. They also, so, and there's different levels there too, where a concubine, may not have always been a slave, but would be a wife that did not have proper status or standing or the same status as another wife. So, like, if you're bringing someone from a lower status to be a wife, they may be a concubine rather than a wife. And you usually wouldn't just have a concubine, you would have a concubine in addition to a wife. So it would be a second wife, but would be of a lower status, and sometimes the concubines are serving the wife. So, why 700? 7 is the number of totality and completeness. So whether it's actually 700 is not the idea here. It's 7 times 100, an innumerable number of wives is what he has, and then 300, and you add them together, you have 10, and 10 is 10 for the 10 commandments, and wait a minute, you have 10, you're violating what the instructions were given, not in the 10 commandments, but the instructions given to kings. So we have that they're irresistible. We have the warning that, hey, you aren't to marry any of these people here because you are going to shift your allegiance to their God. So we're supposed to be watching for this. We're supposed to know the kings aren't supposed to multiply horses and chariots and multiply wives. It's the instructions you're not supposed to do. Was a concubine used as a breeder of sorts in some cases to take the place of a barren wife? You couldn't think of a better word, was trying to not to be offensive. Yeah. That's something I don't know. I mean, we have the story of Abraham and Sarah that goes in that direction, but I don't know that we have any other stories that would back that up in some way and make that suggestion. When Solomon became old, his wives shifted his allegiance to other gods. He was not wholeheartedly devoted to the Lord his God as his father David had been. Solomon worshipped the Sidonian goddess Ashtoreth and detestable Ammonite god Milcom. Okay, I want to go look at that a second. Milcom. Milcom, the detestable thing of the Ammonites. Milcom. I was thinking it might have said Molech. I've learned that Molech is actually a bad translation problem. There wasn't actually a god that was named that, but that's neither here nor there. I just wondered if that was it that was coming up. Molcom. So the god's name is Great King. Great King. Yeah, also Molech. Okay, so it was who I was thinking, Molech. Okay, Molech is a wrong direction there, Milcom. Okay, so the detestable Ammonite god, Solomon did evil in the sight of the Lord. He did not remain loyal to the Lord as his father David had. Furthermore, on the hill east of Jerusalem, Solomon built a high place for the detestable Moabite god Chemosh and the detestable Ammonite god Milcom. He built high places for all his foreign wives so they could burn incense and make sacrifices to their gods. So, he starts with multiplying horses to himself that he's not supposed to do. He is making treaties with, and I'm saying he's making treaties, didn't fully mention treaties, but when you are sending armaments, you're sending horses and chariots to your enemies, your neighboring countries, you got a treaty there. What are the treaties signed with? A wife. They're signed with a wife. So, like, there's 700 or 1,000 wives and concubines in total. That's going to be a lot of them. Now, there's not 1,000 different nations. So, but each wife is going to have a place to worship. So, you worship the god of I'm just going to pick on some really ridiculous things. You worship the god of Fruit Loops. So we're going to make a Toucan Sam statue over here. You can go worship Toucan Sam. Oh, you worship the god of Lucky Charms. So we're going to go have a leprechaun over here that you can go worship. I mean, I'm just going to pick everybody. Oh, you worship Captain Crunch. Sure. I'll go make, yes, follow your nose. It always knows. Now, he's following God. God gave him wisdom. Why does his wisdom not allow him to not make mistakes? The wisdom he has is valuable and profitable for solving the problems of other people. Another thing I wonder, why does not the prophets that are there come and warn Solomon? We have nothing in the text that tells us that the prophets came and said, Solomon, you're doing what is wrong. When David did what was wrong, Nathan came to him and confronted him. Do we have prophets that come and confront him, or do we not say, hey, you're not supposed to be multiplying wives to yourself. You're not supposed to be, and the priest, why did the priest not say, hey, we're only supposed to be worshiping God? What's with all these other places of worship? Like, it's just silent on that fact. It's just completely silent on that fact. The god of frosted flakes. They're great. Does the god of Captain Crunch have Sagis working in the temple? Yes. We could also have the pizza gods. So we have the Noid, if anyone's old enough to remember the Noid, out there, and I know I'm picking on that a little bit, but you had the Noid game. Fun. And then you have the Roman god with Little Caesar. There's exactly. Little Caesar. And I'm picking on it a little bit, but it's like, you were warned you shouldn't do this. You are supposed to be doing this. You are said to be the wisest man that ever lived, and yet you go down this detestable path. It's just a mind-boggling thing. How does this happen? And yet, every single one of us, and where we struggle, we still struggle. So this is his struggle. Okay. The Lord was angry with Solomon because he had shifted his allegiance away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him on 2 occasions and had warned him about this very thing, so that he would not follow other gods. But he did not obey the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, because you insisted on doing this thing and have not kept the covenantal rules I gave you, I will surely tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant. However, for your father David's sake, I will not do this while you are alive. I will tear it away from your son's hand instead. But I will not tear away the entire kingdom. I will leave your son one tribe for my servant David's sake and for the sake of my chosen city, Jerusalem. So we have here is what's going to happen. It won't happen in your lifetime. It will happen in your son's lifetime. The Lord brought against Solomon an enemy, Hadad the Edomite, a descendant of the Edomite king. During David's campaigns against Edom, Joab, the commander of the army, while on a mission to bury the king, killed every male in Edom. So Joab and the entire Israelite army stayed there 6 months until they had exterminated every male in Edom. Hadad, who was only a small boy at the time, escaped with some of his father's Edomite servants and headed to Egypt. They went from Midian to Paran. They took some of the men of Paran and went to Egypt. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, gave him a house and some land and supplied him with food. Pharaoh liked Hadad so well, he gave him his sister-in-law, Queen Tephanes' sister, as a wife. Tephanes' sister gave birth to his son named Genubath. Tephanes raised him in Pharaoh's palace. Genubath grew up in Pharaoh's palace among Pharaoh's sons. Tephanes' sister gave birth to his son named Genubath. Tephanes raised him in Pharaoh's palace. Genubath grew up in Pharaoh's palace among Pharaoh's sons. While in Egypt, Hadad heard that David had passed away and that Joab, the commander of the army, was dead. So Hadad asked Pharaoh, "Give me permission to leave so I can return to my homeland." Pharaoh said to him, "What do you lack here that makes you want to go to your homeland?" Hadad replied, "Nothing, but please give me permission to leave." Okay, so I just wanted to see where that story was going to, because it said that he was coming against Solomon, and I wanted to see the full picture there, but we didn't fully get it. Iceman, tip of the cap, friend, tip of the cap, and a spot of tea. English breakfast today, my friend, English breakfast. Okay, so we had Solomon being told the kingdom is going to be torn away from him, but not in his lifetime. I wanted to see where that was going. We went into the next story. What we do not see here, is that after God speaks to Solomon, I was asking the question, why did no prophets come? Why did a priest not confront Solomon about the sins he was committing, that they would have all known he was doing and violating? They don't come. Finally, God speaks, and God says, "I'm going to tear the kingdom away." When David was confronted about his sin, he repented. He relented, he repented, he turned away from his sin. We see nothing about that with Solomon. We have no reaction from Solomon. We have no story at this point telling us that he's doing anything different to return to God. We'll see if in the next chapter it happens, but you would think it should be an immediate thing. So the Lord is bringing Hadad, the Edomite. Now, he's married to an Edomite princess. Oh, it said that. It mentioned specifically Edom. And so we have this story going back to King David. King David's man, Joab, who did not always obey the king, but was a military man and did what was advantageous for him to do. And so now one of the remnant who remembers what had been done to his people is getting to go back to the people. And we know it said that he was an enemy coming against Solomon. So we're reading the story of how does he come back into power and all of that stuff. So we'll keep going. God also brought against Solomon another enemy, Rezon, son of Eliada, who had run away from his master, King Hadadezer of Jobab. He gathered some men and organized a raiding band. When David tried to kill them, they went to Damascus, where they settled down and gained control of the city. He was Israel's enemy throughout Solomon's reign, and like Hadad, caused trouble. He loathed Israel and ruled over Syria. So now we're finding out, now we are seeing that there were some enemies. Yeah, one Rezon, different spelling there. But now we got to go look it up, do we not? Do we not? So 23. Rezon, it means prince. It means prince. So we have king and we have prince. So they have been enemies. They loathe. They are around. So what we're seeing here is the promise of marrying the foreign women or foreign nations' daughters from around you isn't going to keep them at peace. It's not. Nope. Not going to work. They're going to be coming. They have problems. You are still enemies. To some people, it is never enough. Jeroboam, son of Nebat, one of Solomon's servants, rebelled against the king. He was an Ephraimite from Zeradah, whose mother was a widow named Zeruiah. This is what prompted him to rebel against the king. Solomon built a terrace, and he closed up a gap in the wall of the city of his father David. Jeroboam was a talented man. When Solomon saw that the young man was an accomplished worker, he made him the leader of the work crew from the tribe of Joseph. At that time, when Jeroboam had left Jerusalem, the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite met him on the road. The two of them were alone on the open country. Ahijah was wearing a brand new robe, and he grabbed the robe and tore it into 12 pieces. Then he told Jeroboam, "Take 10 pieces, for this is what the Lord God of Israel has said. Look, I am about to tear the kingdom from Solomon's hand, and I will give you 10 tribes to you. He will retain 1 tribe for my servant David's sake, and for the sake of Jerusalem, the city I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. I am taking the kingdom from him because they have abandoned me and worshiped the Sidonian goddess Ashtoreth and Moabite god Chemosh and the Amorite god Milcom. They have not followed my instructions by doing what I approve and obey my rules and regulations, as Solomon's father David did. I will not take the whole kingdom from his hand. I will allow him to be ruler of the rest for the rest of his life, for the sake of my chosen servant David, whom kept my commands and rules. I will take the kingdom from the hand of his son, and will give 10 tribes to you. I will leave his son 1 tribe, so my servant David's dynasty may continue to serve me in Jerusalem, the city I have chosen as my home. I will select you. You will rule over all you desire to have, and you will become king over Israel. You must obey all I command you to do. Follow my instructions. Do what I approve and keep my rules and commands as my servant David did. Then I will be with you and establish for you a lasting dynasty as I did my father David. I will give you Israel. I will humiliate David's descendants because of this, but not forever." Solomon tried to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam escaped to Egypt and found refuge with King Shishak of Egypt. He stayed in Egypt until Solomon died. You bet the tailors were making bank and the weavers too. Yeah, they're tearing up the garment. So what's interesting is, and prophets were often doing this, but I was asking the question, were there no prophets to speak to Solomon to tell him he was doing wrong? Well, clearly we have a prophet here. We have a prophet who meets Jeroboam on the road. Jeroboam is from one of the tribes of Joseph. So Jeroboam is there. He's a worker. He has been identified as a talented man. Solomon sees him, and Solomon is utilizing him in the kingdom until Ahijah comes and gives this prophecy to Jeroboam. He also tells Jeroboam exactly why this is happening and what he must do. So Jeroboam has the potential promises that David had to be a dynasty, to continually have someone on the throne, because I'm going to do what I did for David. If you do what David did. What did David do? David stayed loyal to God. When he sinned, he turned back to God. Solomon has turned away. Now, we didn't see any return of Solomon to God. Now he knows that Jeroboam is going to be the one to take the kingdom away. He doesn't turn back to God about this. He goes after Jeroboam. Jeroboam goes down to Egypt, and the king of Egypt gives him refuge. Excuse me, this is fair. This is Solomon's first wife. Why is the king of Egypt giving refuge to an enemy of the son-in-law of the king? Because the son-in-law of the king went and took another 699 wives after his daughter. Like, it's meaningless anymore. Like, who are you loyal to? So I would be part of what I would think is part of what's going on here of why would the king do this. We also had the Edomite who has come against him, also had taken refuge, but that's a previous situation that happened during David's time. So we got 4 different enemies being built up around Solomon here in the end of his time. The rest of the events of Solomon's reign, including all his accomplishments and his wise decisions, are all recorded in the scroll called the Annals of Solomon. Solomon ruled over all Israel from Jerusalem for 40 years. Then Solomon passed away and was buried in the city of his father David. His son Rehoboam replaced him as king. So we have 40 years of Solomon. We have a whole bunch of good stuff. And then we have 2 chapters of Solomon blew it. Solomon totally blew it. He multiplies horses and chariots to himself. He's not supposed to do that. He's making treaties with nations around him. He's not supposed to do that. He's supposed to be trusting in God, not trusting in treaties. He's supposed to be trusting in God, not trusting in horses and chariots. He's not supposed to be worshiping other gods. He's not supposed to be marrying foreign women who worship foreign gods. He's marrying foreign women who worship foreign gods and then setting up temples and places of worship for the wives that he has that worship foreign gods. What as the result? The kingdom is torn away. Now, one of the things you might have noticed is it kept saying, I'm going to give 1 tribe because of David, 1 tribe because of David, but 10 are being torn away and given to the northern kingdom. That adds up to 11. Okay, so Judah is assumed here, I think is the way to think about it. Judah is assumed to be following David, and 1 tribe is also going to join them, and the other 10 are torn away. So I think that's how we make sense of the adding up to 12 tribes, is to do it that way. I guess I should also mention, like, all the other feats and all of those. The Book of Kings tells us that. I think the Book of Chronicles also does that. Hey, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. It's written down in these other things. This is the Book of Kings and the Book of Chronicles are giving us certain different views and situations on the life of the kingdom. And the life of the kingdom told through the kings that rule and the rebellion of the people. So we had the Book of Judges that does an interesting thing of talking about the judges who are raised up because the people are doing bad things. Here we now have the kings who are leading. And we had 40 years. 40 years is a time of testing, but 40 years is also significant for a time of rule and peace when we have it for a ruler that happens.